someone with an American accent?
Yeah.
I don't think you know what I'm talking about because I kind of made that up. So someone with an American accent has a tendency to mispronounce words. You may have heard a few, like peculiar, nuclear, old-timer's disease. I don't know if you've heard any of those. Maybe supposedly. Those are all incorrect pronunciations. A lot of people have the tendency to do it. You may have heard this American accent crop up a bit. I know I've had it now and then. When I was in middle school, I met this boy and I saw his name on the paper and I got really excited because I'd never met someone with the name Scene. I was made fun of because his name was Sean. He was not happy. I also know someone who, before I corrected him, pronounced blatant with an O in front of it, and narration with an extra I. He didn't realize that was his American accent. So have you heard of those parents? They couldn't decide what to name their kid. They decided to choose out of a hat. Now there's this boy walking around with the name 6½. I mean, you got to be careful what you name your kids. They get stuck with that name for the rest of their life, or until they can legally change it. I know a lot of people have changed their names when they're able to. So my friend was in a class, and come roll call, the teacher thought someone was playing a joke and messed with the name list. You know, because there were twins named Lemon Jello and Orange Jello. Except it was pronounced Orangelo and Lamangelo. And no, they were not Italian. I went to a ghetto school. Maybe they chose that name out of the fridge. Speaking of Italian, I used to work in an Italian restaurant. And this was in Florida. Some people would come in. They'd speak some, a different language. English would be their second language. Maybe they'd be speaking Spanish typically because it's Florida. And I was always, amused because I like languages. I also like guessing what people are speaking when it's not something typical. So one day this elderly couple comes in and they come sit in my section. I go over, I stand there waiting because they're kind of talking to each other and they're not really looking at me yet. I'm waiting, I'm getting more curious as to what they're speaking because it doesn't sound familiar to me. And finally they turn to me, I say, hi, my name's Rachel, well, can I get you something to drink? Here's some lovely wine. And they order "Tu Chiantis." So I put in the computer, and I have to go around to the other side to get the drinks because the bar's on the other end. And I walk through the kitchen because it's faster. And suddenly it hits me, but I think they're speaking. I get so excited, I turn to the first person I see, which happens to be Julia. She's making up a bread basket. And I go, Julia, I think my table's Russian. She stops what she's doing, she looks at me, and she says, why are they in such a hurry? So at this restaurant, we also had our share of peculiar happenings. We had rats. I don't know if you've ever seen a rat. I don't know if you've ever seen someone else see a rat. But the common reaction to seeing a rat is to, jump up on a table and scream your head off. When you're a waitress in a restaurant, you can't do that. So you have two options, depending on what, if the customer sees the rat or not. So if they see the rat and you see the rat, you have to jump up on the table and scream your head off. Because you can't let them know that rats are kind of common in a restaurant. That's just not really, appropriate. However, if they don't see the rat, you do. You can't jump on a chair and scream your head off, yelling, rat, rat, you, gross. Because you don't want to alert them to the fact that there's a rat. If you can help it, then you have to, take care of it as soon as you can. So at this restaurant, we had some characters working there. I don't know if you've ever worked in a restaurant, maybe seen the movie Waiting. I don't know what it is about people working in restaurants, but some of them are really odd. Maybe it's normal, but our cook was like the dirtiest guy ever. I never saw him wash his hands, ever. It was really gross. He cooked everything with his bare hands. Just the apron was a mess. We also had a guy who claimed he had been in the adult industry. All the ladies loved him. He was pretty good looking. We also had this really sweet girl, and I didn't know until like a few weeks that I knew her that she'd actually taken a bat, went to this girl's house and kind of bludgeoned her until this girl couldn't walk anymore. But she was the sweetest waitress ever. I don't get it. Well, also at this place we had this like European guy. I think he was a racist. So they had me work in the hostess podium once. And you know you're supposed to seat everybody, you know, kind of economically. Everyone gets like the same amount of people throughout the night. You know, you can't like play favorites. So anyways, he comes up to my podium. He sets his elbow down. He looks at me and he says, "Rachel, I don't want you to seat me any blacks, any Hispanics, no young people, no old-timers people, no kids." I'm looking at him like, "What?" And he's like, "Oh, get through." And I'm like, "Seriously?" He walks away, doesn't really acknowledge me because I'm just a hostess. I mean, this is an Italian restaurant in the middle of this like rundown plaza with a dollar theater. I mean, where are you gonna find middle-income white people there? I mean, there's an Olive Garden down the street. Why would they come to your restaurant? So my friend thinks that I say things that he deems first world problems. I don't know if you've heard that phrase. I didn't actually make that one up. So a first world problem is when something that you think is a problem in your life is not actually relevant in a third world country. For example, I went to Panera the other day and I couldn't find my rewards card because it was in my other wallet. And I left my iPhone at home. So when I moved down here from Florida, I actually lived in my dad's house for a bit. And we'd go out to places together and people would come up to us and they'd see us together and they'd say, "Oh, you make such a cute couple." And then they'd ask us the big question, "Are you married?" And I mean, like, I don't have a ring on my finger. I like to think we look alike. He is my dad. I mean, I guess Washington is a liberal state, but... So anyways, you know, they'd ask us this question and we got it a few times. And it took us a while to come up with a great response. And I think it was my dad who said, "No, we're not married, but we live together." And I liked that one. I guess that's not really my joke then. So I want to thank you guys for coming, and this is my first time trying comedy. I usually don't do things in front of people. It makes me nervous. I'd also like to thank, I don't think she came tonight, but my narrator. She was really good for my book, At One's Beast. And thank you guys for coming.